It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha, that's, wow, I was doing so well, and then I started this video, and it's Feedback Friday at the end of a very, very long week. Thank you, everyone, for your condolences for Momo. Still miss him, but, you know, he was a good boy. It's going to be a bit all over. It's always all over the map on Feedback Friday, but there were a couple of topics that people asked me to talk about. And one, I almost dumped the video about Elon Musk and Twitter on Tuesday in favor of talking about it's the parent company of THQ acquiring a bunch of Square Enix, I never know how to pronounce it, IPs, purchasing Crystal Dynamics, and so that means Tomb Raider, but also Legacy of Kain. I don't remember if Deus Ex. Anyway, I have gone back and forth on that one all week. I guess I'll start there. We're going to talk more about, the double standard on people crying. I did a lot of science reading about that this week based on the comments. It's been a very, very busy week. It's Not Therapy, the radio show, launched yesterday. I'm happy with the content. I wasn't happy with the audio quality on the stream. So I'm going to have to figure out what the heck's going on with that. This is a constant struggle I have with content where I test it on multiple devices before I submit, but that's local. It's impossible to hear how it compresses through streaming technology until, until I hear it. But it's also optimized for AM band radio. So I don't know if there's much I can do about it. Eventually, it's going to be available in podcast form. So that's going to solve that problem. But yeah, one thing I do want to do, one thing I do want to work on is making that sound better on the live stream. Like I said, I don't know if it's possible, but anyway, let's do the give me money thing. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time coffee donation for a Leanna Care session for people who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Leanna Cares is always so rewarding. Still have room for a couple more clients. One of the things with It's Not Therapy is expanding the ability to deliver some of the stuff from the Leanna Cares sessions. There are certain things that I'm trying to figure out how to do, like, self-guided stuff for the basics. Obviously that doesn't replace like one-on-one talking, but that's one of the things with the larger stuff, the building and all that stuff. Rambling talk about Crystal Dynamics. I read a lot about this. I went back and forth and factored in. Okay, fact one. The Square Enix Tomb Raider games are beautiful. Certain elements of them are decent open world run and gun gameplay. Lara Croft has gotten extremely boring compared to her previous incarnation. And that's not the Aloy boring that I talked about that is potentially neurodivergent. Aloy's always been Aloy from the beginning of the series. Lara was mad, bad, and dangerous to know. And now she's normal, likable girl. And I think for people who never played a Tomb Raider game before this, or people who like normal, likable girl, okay, great. But, I mean, the games have not set the world on fire. I think the first one was probably my favorite. I didn't play the last one. Rise of Tomb Raider. Was it Rise of Tomb Raider? I don't know. The one with the evil Jesus and a lot with Trinity and all that stuff. It's just not feeling that game. Even though there were more tombs in that game. Not feeling. A big problem with modern Lara Croft is that she doesn't do anything in her own story. The movie was terrible about that. The big climax of the movie, she's watching, spoilers, not that it matters, she's watching two guys fight. She's just hiding behind something, watching two guys fight. Why is Lara Croft a bystander, just a witness to the action? And the climax of a movie that's supposed to be about her, right? This has been the problem. And so here's the deal. It's another chance with THQ. That's good. The thing that people pointed out to me when asking me to talk about this, and I had a bit of a back and forth, see, still feedback, is that the same parent company, THQ, is also the publisher of the Saints Row franchise. And the new Saints Row stuff, the rebooted Saints Row stuff, does not look at all like Saints Row. Yeah. Obvious cause for concern. So because we don't know how it's going to go, here's my suggestions for how to fix Tomb Raider. There has always been this thing that I think is wrong, that the developers want players to want to protect Lara Croft. And that's insulting on so many levels. Would people put a male protagonist with a couple of guns or a bow and arrow in a game and want players to feel protective of him? No. The entire design philosophy is sexist. It is. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it because it is using a female protagonist. And this all comes from the original Alien film that, we care more about Ripley. We feel more scared because it's a woman being put in peril. We're so far beyond that. Ellen Ripley's a badass now. And that's right and good. Lara Croft is a badass too. Get off this. We want the player to feel a protective instinct against Lara. Why? Because she's a woman. No. Here is the thing about video games. Nobody wants the main character in a AAA game. Indie is different. Like, I'm not talking about Life is Strange or shit like that. Even then, they have fucking superpowers in Life is Strange. Nobody plays a video game for normal person. Even games like Heavy Rain or Alan Wake, they're characters put in exceptional circumstances. We don't want to feel protective. We don't feel like we have to protect somebody in third-person view we perceive as better, more powerful, and more skilled. And more important, quite frankly, than we are in our everyday lives. That isn't the vicarious escapist thrill that people play AAA video games to get to. You know, Tomb Raider should not be taken full survival horror. The thing that worked in the first game was they totally walked away from that because allegedly the mouse slipped on a boob slider and all of a sudden, Lara Croft became full frontal in both appearance and action. And people liked that. That does not change in terms of what people find fun in video games just because she's a woman. Now, do we necessarily need to go back to giant boobs on Lara Croft? Well, I think it would be fun. I do. I do not think it's necessary if they think the market still won't tolerate it. A funny homage scene might be fun, but the truth is that it's more important to bring back her personality and the more meaningful stories about, the way her personal story interweaves with a known mythological tale. And those great get the shiny or get the answers she's looking for, but they're never what she hoped. It's always very tragic. Like, that all got lost in the new games. And part of that was the move to open world. Though a lot of games like Far Cry 4 have successfully told a story about family and family past and legacy in an open world format. It can be done. They just got to get back to making Lara, quite frankly, somebody who's better than us and knows it. I mean, she can still have that inner anger. She can still have that inner pain. But this ludicrous idea that the player should want to protect Lara Croft has never worked. So this is an opportunity to fix that, finally, to stop making the same mistakes. Because, I mean, the ragdoll physics in the first few games were just too funny to want to do it. And this isn't survival horror. Even survival horror, I mean, the gory deaths are part of the fun, not something intended to avoid. I always find those really gory deaths with female characters that are intended to dissuade you from wanting to die, I find they backfire. In the first Tomb Raider game, I found it very torture porny. In The Last of Us 2, you maybe remember me playing it and being so sick of the fucking game that in the Ellie and Abby fight, I kept deliberately losing so Abby would get gory death scenes over and over and over again. It was my favorite part of the whole experience playing the game, and that was not the intended response. Now, the truth is, with proper game design, you put something in giving the player the right and agency to feel any way they want about something. If people feel like it's funny to throw Lara off a rock over and over and over again, like I did because it was funny to watch her bounce in the Anniversary remake, they should be able to do that. The only penalty is, you start from the last checkpoint. If you're going to let a player do something in your game, it has to be treated just as valid as any other choices. There can be consequences for that choice, but it shouldn't be considered morally wrong because that's not play, right? If you want to use narrative and tell a story that, oh, there's a consequence and that may make someone feel bad, that's awesome. I mean, the first two Dragon Age games did that amazingly well. Even the second one, which was rushed. The choice with Isabella and the Arashok and stuff like that. Those felt meaningful. And, the binary choices in Dragon Age Origins, whatever choice you made, it may have made, you had to give something up, In Origins, by the time you make the choice about Logain, you already sort of know he had his reasons. You don't fully understand him unless you make a certain choice, but at that point, he had his reasons. And so it's a tough choice, and I made both choices. I played through the game, and while, one of them's, for me, much happier, and I preferred, and when I played the game a third time, I went back to that, but the second choice worked. I didn't like it personally. It wasn't my preferred option, but it worked. And that's great game design. When you're giving a player an option, but then going, no, that's bad. I don't think that's as good in AAA design. For me, my philosophy of game design, no. If you give the player the opportunity to have fun in a certain way, let them have fun in that way. The same way they inadvertently let me have fun with the recycled rock head crack animation in that one part of Last of Us 2, and the Abby Ellie fight with the gory death scenes, right? Like, everything you put in a game should be fun somehow. For some odd reason, after a while, that you have died screen in a Dark Souls game gets to be part of the experience. That's I think why, even though From Software, game balance, can you really talk about game balance in a From Software game? They're deliberately ridiculous in various ways, right? The point is, you feel that a lot of the choices are deliberate, even if they make you insane. And so that's what I do with Tomb Raider. Stop trying to railroad the player into feeling something about Lara Croft. And give her a good adventure with like tombs and looting. I mean, I don't care about the type of gameplay, although I would like it to go back to more of the puzzles. I get why, but puzzles are starting to come back. Some make them optional puzzles. Like, please give us something with more of that classic experience. But really, frankly, don't try to force people to feel one way or another about Lara. Because the thing that was good about the first games is that Lara did a lot of things that I disagreed with. And the things that made her unlikable traditionally made her a better, more original, more badass character. And we know we do this with male characters. We understand this with male characters. So stop sucking out because it's a female character. Okay, so moving on. We know how Leanna feels about double standards. And this is where a lot of the feedback about the when men cry, the feedback really surprised me. Pushback from men saying, no, men don't cry. Men can't cry. It's testosterone. I can't cry. It's not a thing men do. I'm sitting here thinking, Will Smith was weeping in front of the whole world like less than an hour after he smacked Chris Rock. What do you mean men don't cry? I've seen men cry. Of course some men cry. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was not a crier. I think I saw her shed maybe 3 tears in her entire life. Some women don't cry too. And that's why I'm like, is there anything to this? I mean, the responses were all over the place. I talked to some trans women, but some trans women were kind enough to leave comments. And I mean, even their responses, which is, this is my control for the hormonal element, right? Even that's all over the map. I mean, there is a point in transition where a lot of people's emotions go haywire because of the shift. It's like puberty all over again. But individual experience is really varied. And so obviously, shocker, human biology, human psychology is complex, and there's no one size fits all. And I go to the data, and there's so many theories about why. And their nature, their nurture, their part nature, their part nurture, and the sort of golden mean heterodox analysis approach of the whole thing is the variation between individuals in any of this stuff is greater than the variations between genders. And that makes the most sense to me. People are individuals, shocker. And that was my whole point, that if people are individuals, and some people do and some people don't, why are we judging the same way? I said, we don't think about this when it's a male character. Why when it's Lara Croft? The same thing. There should be no shame for people to experience a wide variety of emotions if it seems sincere, right? And not overdone or attempt to manipulate. Yes, it's subjective. I get it. That's subjective. I know. But there do have to be some reasonable, like, all right, the minute someone turns on the waterworks, that isn't a get out of jail free card, right? We all recognize that. Your feelings can be validated, your behaviors not necessarily. I am concerned, though, at the people who seem cut off from various emotions and believe this is just a natural state. And so they don't try for better. They don't try for happier. And because it's a such an emotional thing, I'm going to be gentle about this. Not because I'm a nice person. It's just, it's reality. You can't force people into believing you. But the more people I talk to, the more I learn about people, the more I learn about humanity, the more I love the messy complexity of it. And wow, have I invoked this in this last week, because like, holy crap, things went nuts the last week. But I had this interesting juxtaposition of, personal loss and then the craziness in US politics, but then these really amazing moments with people in the one-on-one sessions, and even, the media I did for It's Not Therapy. It was like living in three different worlds. There's all this individual triumph going on one-on-one. I was exhausted, like so beyond tired Wednesday. I actually recorded a Patreon video and put up for the patrons. And I was like, I was really punchy. Have a laugh, And then I was really tired that morning. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was rough for me. And I did something I never do with press. It was radio. So I just wore my bathrobe to do the interview, because I'm like, I don't want to get cat hair on my shirt. I need it for later. I got back-to-back things. I'll just, I'll change my shirt after. So I go, it's a radio thing in the morning, right? It's radio. And I click into the Zoom and I'm there. And they said, if you can just turn your camera on. Fortunately, I had my makeup done, but I was in my bathrobe. And so I kind of like sunk down, so it just kind of looked like it might be like the top of something. I don't know. Hi. And it happened to be May the 4th. And if anybody noticed, they didn't say anything. They commented on the Grogu in the background. They're like, May the 4th be with you. I'm like, okay, a bathrobe's kind of like a Jedi robe. Maybe they think this is on theme, but it was funny. But that was Leanna's week. Okay. And I'm a butthead, so I thought that was hysterical, right? Another person would have been, oh my God, this is so mortifying. Everybody has a different story about their experience. Everybody has a different relationship to their experience. And it was nice to do stuff on the Twitter and Elon Musk thing with everybody else that was going on, and get like actual people with accounting and financial, basically going, I'll not just agree with you, I will be more emphatic about what you're saying. No, they don't do these things to do anything but make money. And Elon Musk is a smart dude, and so on and so forth. So I really appreciate adding that expertise. It's always nice when someone has that. When someone has a particular skill set, I listen to their area of expertise. Right? It doesn't matter if I agree with them on anything else. If that's what they're trained in, they know more about it than I do. Right? And so I'm actually going to read a comment. I'm not going to go a whole Feedback Friday without reading some comments. So we're going to do one about the men crying, because I thought it was a good summary. And then another question, and I will try to get through it as quickly as I possibly can. This is only the second half of the comment, but basically what they said, despite claims to the contrary, some minds may see women as the weaker sex and therefore more needing of rest or easier jobs, or they're easier to place when they do. The commenter did say they don't think that the double standard is necessarily intentionally gendered, but this is what they said at the end, and I thought this was profound. People don't simply need to let men feel things. They need to understand why we do, like they'd ask anyone to do for them. Well said. Let me repeat that. People don't simply need to let men feel things. They need to understand why we do, like they'd ask anyone to do for them. We can't get to understanding each other if we can only express the positives. Funny you've been mentioning the Golden Girls a lot lately, as I just got the whole series on DVD and can see the whole thing for the first time and see it as something that wouldn't air today. Those women fought and could be very mean to each other, but it was taken as good ribbing, a sense of understanding it's mean but not wrong. When the chips are down, they are there to support each other and can forgive each other. I've seen half a dozen episodes that nearly broke them up in anger, and I've only gotten to season 4. It's a lesson that you really can't have happiness and positivity if you don't have some down times too. And the thing that was beautiful about this commenter is this is a commenter who shared some really down times in their life. So this was nice to see that in general, but nice to see it coming from them. And the thing about the Golden Girls is sometimes the ribbing, the insults they gave each other was just ribbing. It wasn't good fun. The other was sometimes, tolerating the quirks of each other, but sometimes they really did fight. And it was the glory of their performances, the beauty of those 4 women, that the performances were astounding. And you could tell when they were really angry at each other, but they fought and they made up and they apologized. Yes, it was always played for laughs, and yes, there was reporting that B. Arthur got more than a little sick of all the cracks about her looks, which, yeah, that part didn't necessarily age well. It was overdone, but overall, yeah. I mean, there are blackface scenes in the original Golden Girls series. Those are taken off Disney Plus now. But yeah, the show is so ahead of its time in a lot of ways. Now when women fight, it's backstabby and catty. And can we please have the Golden Girls back? Because that's the other side to the whole gendered emotions thing. And I think the commenter got it. It's not just about letting anyone express something. It's understanding why they're upset. It's understanding why they're angry. And I admit that's the frustration with some commenters sometimes. It's clear they're very upset. I don't know why. And I actually do want to know. I always say I'm far more interested in why somebody thinks something than what they think. And I am so desperate. Please just give me something I can use. And the longer it goes on that somebody's just angry and no, I want to understand. I can't. And I keep getting more frustrated. I have to watch that. But I thought that was an excellent comment. And so now for Wellness Wednesday, which I never did put the thumbnail up. Crap. Ego, identity, attachment, and narcissism. The question was, would it be accurate to say that the obsession with group identity has existed before the '07 crash and all of the economic turmoil that follows? It's just that group identity was latched onto careers versus the immutable characteristics stuff. And sorry about Momo. Yeah. Everybody was very, very understanding about Momo, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. Group identity did exist. I mean, group identity was, second wave feminism, first wave feminism, right? There's group identity there. There was artificial group identity in a lot of ways. And I know I picked feminism, the civil rights, the simultaneous civil rights movement caught Black women between their gender and their race. And that's had a profound effect on things going forward because, yes, those individual group identities definitely pre-existed 2007. But it has become everyone sucked into it. To the point that I was actually told that me referencing, because you guys know that when I talk about certain issues, like the wage gap, for instance, right? The gender wage gap, it's not actually just gender. It's also race. I just like to be accurate, because if I'm accurate, then someone can't come and punch a hole in my statistics later. And I did that with another thing about maternal mortality rates. And a comparison thing. So I shared a stat, but I also did a deeper dive by breakdown by race because no surprise, things are way worse for Black women in the US than white women. And Hispanic women are somewhere in between. And somebody said that me referencing race and data was alienating, that they just care about women. And I'm like, why are facts alienating? And I went back and forth with this person on Twitter. I was like, I don't get it. I was lost. And they're like, I just don't want to, I don't want to talk about. I'm like, imagine how Black women feel. I don't care. I just care about women. And I shouldn't mock. That was me being frustrated, not mocking the commenter. But the fact that we live in an age where mere data, accurate data, is something people find off-putting or alienating. That's when I go, yikes. Just yikes. There's been a lot of people who have been in we have to do something, I have to do something mode. I had a few fights with people. They all got resolved. It was all good. We're closer for it. But it was because of the freaking out about what's going on with stuff. And I haven't, I'm not going to talk about the Supreme Court or anything like that because that's not what this channel's for. I didn't do Twitch on Tuesday because with everything that was going on, I thought it would be bad to have that politically charged thing, to take that all on the chin because people were going to want to talk about it. And I didn't think I could do it without snapping because of Momo passing. And we can talk it eventually. I do want to talk about it. This particular channel, I just think is not... That has nothing to do with video games. Absolutely nothing. It has nothing to do with personal mental wellness. It's law. It's U.S. law, and I'm not even American. But that do something is very understandable, that feeling like we need to do something. And this is where we have to take a minute and kind of go, okay, what can we do? And like I said, I don't make laws. I can't prescribe anybody anti-anxiety medication or antidepressants. I can tell stories. I can listen to stories. And I can put them together in a way that may be useful to other people. So that's what I do. And everybody else has their own gifts too. And, another person said they never thought about the difference between I am and I do. You may notice the more I talk, I am much more about I do this, I am this, very few things. Because I don't think it terribly matters. Because to me, the most important identifier for me and anybody is I'm a good person. And in the Leanna Care sessions, a number of people I said to this week, you're not just smart. You're not just good at a lot of things. You are a legitimately good person. And that matters. And that's what you can do. You can see the good in someone. You can see that the good outweighs the bad. And validate that in someone. And watch Moon Knight on Disney Plus because it's freaking excellent. Oh my God, not going to say more. Going to wait a few weeks before talking about Moon Knight just so people can catch up. But Moon Knight's so good. Watch it if you need some happy. And this concludes, oh Lord, my week. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but cannot afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Have a great weekend.